This video was brought to you by Nebula. Get exclusive TLDR content and all of our videos ad-free by signing up using the link in the description. With the exception of the breakup of Yugoslavia in the early 2000s and Russia's various conflicts with its ex-Soviet neighbors, the borders of Europe have been relatively static for the past 30 years, having spent the past few centuries fighting endless campaigns of conquest. Most European nations have apparently finally accepted the current territories as their end state, and separatist sentiments are today usually expressed at the ballot box instead of on the street. Nonetheless, Europe still has its separatist movements, some of which have been revitalized by the political upheaval of late. So we thought it would be interesting to do a video on every separatist movement on the continent today. So before we get into it, firstly I want to say a thank you to our patrons who chose this topic, and I'd also like to do a quick disclaimer. For this video, we're only going to consider separatist movements that have an established political presence and actually have a chance of succeeding. Obviously, chance of succeeding is a pretty vague criterion, so if there's anything we've missed, then let us know in the comments below. Anyway, to give this video some semblance of structure, we're going to list the separatist movements by latitude, beginning in the north and ending in the south. So let's get straight to it. The northernmost European separatist movement that we're aware of is the Faroe Islands, all the way up here in the North Atlantic. The Faroe Islands, currently part of Denmark, have had a separatist movement since basically the 1814 Treaty of Kiel, which split up the Dano-Norwegian realm and handed the islands over to Copenhagen. And this separatist sentiment is sort of predictable. After all, the Faroese have their own distinct culture and language, and the islands lie nearly 1,000 kilometers away from the coast of Denmark. The islands even held an independence referendum in 1946, having been administered by the British during World War II. In that vote, a narrow 50.7% majority of valid votes were cast for independence, but about 4% of all ballots were invalid. So when the Speaker of the local assembly declared independence, Denmark disagreed, and Danish King Christian X sailed over to the island to reassert control. The Faroe Islands were granted home rule from Denmark in 1948, but there's still a strong secessionist movement, which has been buoyed by rising fish prices and tourism revenue. In fact, polling from 2017 found that a majority wanted independence by 2035, but Copenhagen just doesn't seem interested. The next movement on our list as we move south is Scotland. This is something we've covered in detail on the TLDR UK channel. But the TLDR is that Scotland has always had a secessionist streak. But it's been encouraged by Brexit, which a majority of Scots don't like and didn't vote for, Boris Johnson, who's particularly unpopular in Scotland, and the political dominance of the SNP, who control 48 out of 49 Scottish seats in Westminster. While polling suggests that support for independence is down from its 2020 high, and Westminster's made clear they don't plan on holding a referendum anytime soon, support for independence in Scotland is still at about 45%. And as long as the SNP are in charge, Scottish independence will remain a real possibility. Next on the list is another UK-based separatist movement, Irish independence. Again, we've covered this one before on TLDR UK too, but the basic idea is that some people in Ireland, known as Irish Republicans, have wanted to reunify the Republic and Northern Ireland since Westminster first partitioned them in the 20s. The Irish Republican Army fought a long and bloody guerrilla war against British security forces and loyalist paramilitaries from the 1960s to 1990s. In an era known as the Troubles. The Troubles eventually ended with the 1998 Good Friday Agreement, which said that Irish reunification could only happen with majority support in both the Republic and Northern Ireland. And because of that, Irish reunification wasn't really on the cards until, well, Brexit again, which ended up pushing support for Irish reunification in Northern Ireland from about 20% to nearer 40% today. And voters in both Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland see themselves as a united country within the next 10 years. Now, you might expect the next one on the list to be Wales, But while the ironically named United Kingdom might be falling apart, let's not get ahead of ourselves, because we've actually got another Danish secession movement in Bornholm. We're not going to spend too much detail on it because it's a tiny island in the Baltic Sea, home to only about 40,000 people, and only a slight majority even want independence. But basically, we don't want to miss them from the list. So there's also Bornholm. Next then, let's return to the UK, where we've got Wales, which, yep, you guessed it, we've covered in more detail over on TLDR UK. While polling suggests that support for Welsh independence is lower than 30%, and Plaid Cymru, the main Welsh nationalist party, only won 20% of the vote in the 2021 regional elections, polling suggests that support would increase significantly if Scotland were to leave the Union first. So we could see a domino effect at play here. Next on the list are the Dutch-speaking Flanders and French-speaking Wallonia. While a majority of Walloons do want to remain part of Belgium, in Flanders, two pro-independence parties obtained nearly 50% of the vote at the last general election in 2019. The establishment parties clubbed together to deny them a government, but if they do even better in 2024, then the Belgian partition could become a reality. Looking a little further south, we've got Silesia, a region of the Czech Republic and Poland with its own distinct regional identity. Now, more than 8 million people claimed Silesian identity in the 2011 Polish census. But again, we're not going to spend too much time on this one, because while many Silesians want regional autonomy, only a tiny majority want actual full-blown independence. Next on the list is Bavaria, the largest state in Germany. Bavaria has had a nationalist state since its incorporation into the German Empire all the way back in 1871, and there was actually a short-lived Bavarian socialist state in the aftermath of Germany's defeat in World War I. While polling from YouGov in 2017 found that 32% of Bavarians support independence, secession in the near future looks unlikely, given that A, the pro-independence Bavaria Party have never won more than 2% in state elections, and B, the Constitutional Court ruled in 2016 that there are no legal grounds for secession from Germany. Then we've got the CK autonomy movement, which advocates for independence for ethnic Hungarians in an independent CK land within Romania. According to a 2011 census, about 1.2 million ethnic Hungarians live in Romania, half of them in CK land, making them the largest minority group in the country. While we couldn't find any polling, the size of their marches suggests that the movement enjoys widespread approval within the region, and this is at least tacitly supported by the Hungarian president, Viktor Orban, who always likes stoking Hungarian nationalism abroad. Then we have South Tyrol, a predominantly German-speaking region in Italy, and this one's pretty contentious, because there were various pro-independence terrorist groups operating in the 50s and 60s advocating for this cause. But things did calm down once the region gained some autonomy from Rome in 1972. While explicitly pro-independence party in the region got a combined 13% of the vote in the 2018 local election, polling found that 46% of the total population and 54% of German speakers in the region would actually support secession. Then, just to the southeast of Tyrol, is Istria, a peninsula that straddles Croatia and Slovenia, and has been ruled by the Istrian Democratic Assembly, known as the IDS, since 1994. Nonetheless, while the IDS advocates for greater autonomy within Croatia, and Istria certainly has its own regional identity, relatively few Istrians actually want complete independence. And the Croatian constitution doesn't provide any legal mechanism for secession, which means that independence is unlikely in the near future. Next, we have the Basque Country, a region spanning northern Spain and southwestern France. Basque nationalists have aspired for nationhood for all Basque-speaking people since the 19th century, and the secessionist ETA militia fought a guerrilla war with the Spanish authorities for half a decade, beginning in 1959 and only ending in 2011. Therefore, it's unsurprising that for the last 40 years or so, Basque politics has been dominated by the Basque National Party, who've successfully carved out enough concessions from Madrid to make the Basque Country one of the most autonomous regions in Europe. Since an attempted independence referendum was struck down by Spain's Supreme Court in 2018, Basque Country has apparently called on independence, with polling last year finding that just 21% are actually in favour of doing so. Next on the list is Catalonia, a region in eastern Spain home to over 7 million Spaniards, a decent percentage of the country's total population. And Catalonia has basically done the opposite of the Basque Country. Having been relatively relaxed about independence for most of the last 50 years or so, in 2017, the regional Catalan government held a referendum on Catalan independence, which was approved by 92% of voters, admittedly only with a 43% turnout. The referendum was declared unconstitutional by Spain's Constitutional Court, plunging Spain into a massive constitutional crisis. While pro-independence parties continue to perform well in regional elections, polling suggests that support for independence is waning, with a recent poll giving Unionists a 15-point lead over Separatists. Okay, we're nearly done, because the last one on the list is Sicily, which was actually ruled by the Movement for Autonomy's party from 2008 to 2012, advocating for not quite full-on independence, but greater autonomy for Sicily. And while a 2014 poll found an impressive 44% of Sicilians are in favour of independence, that looks likely to actually come to anything in the near future, given that A, autonomous and separatist parties don't perform particularly well at elections, and B, there's no real political momentum behind the idea. So that's every separatist movement in Europe. You managed to keep track of how many there were? Because my word, does Europe love the idea of a divorce. And it's true that despite some agreement on Ukraine, tensions appear to be growing on the continent without clear alliances or leadership. In fact, we discussed the lack of clear European leadership and Ukraine's alliances in videos exclusive to Nebula. As you likely know already, Nebula is the streaming service that we've built with some of our creator friends, including these awesome people that you probably already watch. And if you sign up, you'll be able to watch both of those exclusive videos. But you'll also get yourself tons of other exclusive TLDR content, including our team's recent attempt at the British citizenship test and a tour of our new office, as well as all of our videos being ad-free. If you're interested and do want to sign up, then you'll want to use the link in the description to get the Nebula Curiosity Stream bundle deal. Here's how it works. If you sign up to Curiosity Stream, home to the best documentaries online, then you'll also get Nebula included absolutely free. That means it's less than $15 a year for both services. Curiosity Stream for high-quality documentaries, and Nebula for bonus TLDR content. And doing so also really supports the channel, so thanks for your help.